You're one bad decision away from throwing your whole life away. Flashing lights, handcuffs, headlines. That's how fast it could happen. One moment of pride, one emotional reaction, and it's over. The world doesn't care if you were just mad or just proving a point. It only remembers the result. So before you move off impulse, just ask yourself, is this worth everything I've been building? Is this worth my life? Real strength is knowing when to walk away.
Hello! Huh?
Alright, so what does crashing out actually mean? According to Urban Dictionary, it means to get really mad or upset, aka lose all your self-control. Used in a sentence, it says, keep playing with me and I'ma crash out. End quote. So basically, it's when you let emotion hijack your logic. When you do something irreversible over something temporary. Losing a job because you couldn't stay quiet. Your manager says something stupid to you and you just had to defend yourself. Catching a charge because you had to defend your reputation. You had to fight back because someone said something negative about you or your mama. Or just ruining a perfectly fine relationship over something petty like leaving the toilet seat up or having a disagreement with friends. Either way, crashing out is negative. And perfect example of crashing out, let's think of a celebrity example. Will Smith crashing out at the awards. 2022? He crashed out in front of the entire world. And that one little moment just ruined his career. And don't get me wrong, I love Will Smith. And as goofy as some of his movies may be, and as silly and cringy some would say he is, I still love Will Smith. We share a name, so that's cool. But, he's done a lot of great shows. Fresh Prince, 7 Pounds, Hitch, Pursuit of Happiness, iRobot, I Am Legend. I could go on. He's a legend, no pun intended. But that one slap cost him everything. I know it cost him some movie deals. It cost just everything. And yeah, and another thing that comes to mind of a perfect example of a crash out is SpongeBob, man. We grew up watching probably the biggest crash out in the entire face of media. Like, the amount of times he would just crash out, let me think. He crashed out when Mr. Krabs wouldn't let him sleep. He crashed out when Squidward was living at his house. He crashed out when Mr. Krabs wouldn't hire Squidward over a dime. And it's funny because it's a cartoon, but in real life, the mindset of just like crashing out over certain things is kind of just ruins people. And characters acting off of emotion and no control, no accountability is obviously makes sense in a show, but maybe it made us feel like it was normal to crash out, like there'd be no consequences. But we've seen it all, and honestly, you might have been a victim to someone crashing out, or you maybe have crashed out, or maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. It's just been something that's on my mind. It's weird because people crash out over so many different things. There's so many variables that go into it. I feel like it's something where people just have a bunch of bottled up emotion. Most of the time, kind of like anger and feeling disrespected or ignored or embarrassed. It just kind of builds up and builds up. And eventually, it just, like a volcano, it just erupts and they want to feel all that go away and to have some sense of power over the situation. And again, with Will Smith, man, he was in an entanglement And that was just the start of the downfall, man. It just, all the harassment and the constant jokes and everything about his wife's relationship with August. And it just culminated into the slap. And that split-second decision just kind of ruined him. And the same thing with SpongeBob. Obviously, we know he is constantly disrespected by everybody. Everybody, constantly ignored, constantly underappreciated. And, those moments he would crash out again. We know it's a show. We know it's supposed to be funny. But I can't help but to feel like, yeah, I would crash out too if my boss fired me over this or someone was taking vet. I would crash out in that situation. And just let me be real. I've definitely have crashed out a few times. And definitely have regretted every one of them. And I'm not saying crash out as in like something major where I got in huge trouble. I'm just talking about something, even just small things. So I got 2 examples of me crashing out. So a couple nights ago, I was chilling in the, the party, the Xbox party. It was late, maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And usually around that time, right, if you know, that's when the party conversations, they get weird, they get freaky, or they get real deep and real personal. And thankfully, that this night was one of those personal nights, not them freaking us. And so we were just playing games, my friend and I, just me and him, and he all of a sudden out of nowhere said, I'm glad you're not a crash out anymore. And I took full offense to that. I said, what do you mean a crash out? I was never a crash out. And then I remembered this one story, or this one time I was playing 2K. Yes, 2K. I swear that game is so toxic. It brings out the worst in you. I was playing 2K with a friend and his friends. And I don't remember what happened exactly, but it culminated in us losing. And it was, my friend's fault. Or my fault, not sure, but let's go with it was his fault. And they were putting the blame on me. That was my fault. Now, again, I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I do know that this eventually turned into me calling my friend out personally. And in the game, but the personally part was definitely not, was uncalled for. And I called him out, and I didn't think anything of it. He just took that L, or at least I thought it was an L for him. He took the L, and we went on with the day. I left the party, whatever. The next day I get back on, and I try to join the party, try to invite him, and my invites were going through, and I couldn't join his party. So I message him, and the messages didn't go through. I'm like, oh, is Xbox down? What's going on? So I message his friend, and his friend is like, yeah, he don't mess with you no more. And I said, what do you mean? He said, what you said yesterday was not right, and we don't want to play with that, with someone like that. And it just left it at that. And that was years ago. And for some reason I still have this friend added, so every time I see him I always think of that now. And it was just so unnecessary for me to do that, and I completely ruined that friendship. And honestly, it will probably never come back again, because he's the type of guy to, once you cross me, it's over. And thankfully it didn't go farther than any repercussions besides our relationship, me and him. But then I had another time, a professional story, so while at work. And so I was the manager at this place, and I had this one employee who was, oh man, she was newer, but she still, obviously been through training and all these things. And I don't know what it was, but she just loved to give everybody shit. And on this particular day, not sure what was going on, but I remember this is the time I was, new dad, tired, a bunch of things were going on at work and at home. And this one day I was not feeling her shit. And I remember she gave me shit and I said, if you don't shut the front door, shut your mouth and do what you're supposed to do, we're gonna have some problems. And obviously it was a lot more explicit, a lot more stern than that. But she definitely listened and she stopped giving me shit. But I constantly think about that moment and how unprofessional and immature it was for me to do that. And it really just haunts me. And thankfully, again, there were no crazy repercussions besides maybe, you know, father disciplining a child, like you don't do it again, or else. But, I've crashed out definitely, and every time I've just felt so icky, and I don't want to live life like that. And it's crazy to think that kindness is king. Kindness is better than everything, and being in control of your emotions and your rage and thinking about what you're gonna say before you say it instead of just doing whatever comes to your head. And so again, strength is in the control. Anybody can blow up and act all high and mighty, but it takes a bigger person to kind of stay calm, even if a situation may warrant a crash out. And so there's a ancient Chinese proverb that says, if you are patient in the moment of anger, you will escape 100 days of sorrow. And that is a fact. Think before you crash out, man. There's no need to crash out. It'll just haunt you. Here's some practical advice. Here's some advice that I've been trying to live by, especially after having kids. I do not want to crash out on the kids. That'd be bad. But pause before you react, number one. Number two, think long term, not emotionally. Will this matter now? Will this matter in a week? Will this matter in a year? 3, protect your peace like it's money. Don't spend the energy when you're going to get nothing in return. Number 4, channel the fire somewhere productive. Feeling that urge, just, lift, write, create, walk, do something, just get away and do something else. And last but not least, number 5, check your circle. If your crew's filled with crash outs, odds are you're going to be a crash out and you're not going to be able to control your emotions effectively. Maturity isn't about never messing up, it's just about changing and learning from your mistakes. And so, again, things might not change immediately, but it's the fact that you're trying to control your emotions and be a better person is what honestly matters a lot. So again, next time you're about to react, just pause and ask yourself, are you building something or are you breaking something? AKA a relationship, a situation, anything. And that question will save you more than you know, because I know it has me. And those times that I've not asked myself those questions, bad things happen. And so if you're done crashing out mentally and are ready to build real discipline, I'm trying to improve and build something here. So stick around and I'll see you next time.